what would be the best advice you can give somebody to your the younger version of yourself, the younger Abigail today?
I would tell her that she is enough. You're powerful.
Welcome back, everybody, to Always Level Up, the podcast. I'm your host, Carlos Garcia, and this is where my guests share stories on how they've leveled up in business, in health, in relationships, and mindset. And today, I have a special guest. Her name is Abigail Santangelo. She's a mother, she's a real estate investor, she's a real estate developer, and she is the boss lady. Welcome, Abigail. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to just sit here and chat with you.
Awesome. Well, I know you as Abigail, the real estate investor. We've done business together. I've seen you take on big projects and, do some amazing things and had a lot of success in real estate and real estate investing. I know it hasn't been an easy road to get here, and today I'd like to share the story, and where it all began. Where did the first level up in your life? What was the major thing that took you from wherever you were at and what you were doing to real estate?
Well, my first level up was long before I even got into real estate. It was probably, it was over 25 years ago. And I was married, and I was in a very abusive marriage. I was a high school dropout, and I just, got married early, started having kids. And my oldest son was in first grade. I think he was in first grade. Mm-hmm. And I was helping him with his homework, and my ex-husband had came in, and he looked down and he says, "How are you helping him with his homework and you didn't even graduate? You didn't even finish school." And that was his way of, just keeping me down. And I remember looking at my son, and it was that moment, literally, that I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm not. So that day, or it was actually the next day, I went and bought a GED book. Mm-hmm. And I had made a decision that I was going to put a plan together, get my GED, because I had, several little kids, and I grew up on welfare and government housing. So my only option was, you're going to either stay in this marriage or you're going to go back to where you came from and take them. Mm-hmm. So I had went and got the GED book, studied, and decided, I'm going to stick it out here for a short period of time, get my, education, and then I'm gone. So that final insult propelled everything from that point in my life. Lit a fire under me, and I'm like, you know what? You're hurting me, which at that time I didn't have any self-worth, because of my past. But I'm like, you're not gonna hurt my child by hurting me, by him seeing that. So yeah. So what were you doing for work? I, at that time, because I had 4 children, so I was a stay-at-home mom with them, and I actually was building him up through his career, and because he didn't have any drive, and I was like, no, you need to do this, do that, and I was like a straight homemaker. I cooked, cleaned every night, made dinner, made his plate, made the kids' plate. Mm-hmm. I was literally that mom in my 20s.
Wow. And then taking
his abuse,
taking all that verbal, everything that came with it. I mean, I know that had to be challenging. Kind of brings back a little memories. I remember my mother and my stepdad. They had a kind of verbal abusive relationship, but it was challenging to see her go through that as well. So I can only imagine what you were going through. As far as once you got your GED, because I'm assuming you went and did it and you made it happen, right?
Yes.
What happened after that?
I got my GED, and it was within a short period of time, because I was so focused. I wasn't playing around, and I went to St. Philip's. I studied the book. I really didn't do classes, and then I went to St. Philip's and took the test. When I got the results that I passed, I went immediately and enrolled in nursing school, which was LVN school, licensed vocational nurse, and passed that test. Got in the school, and I was almost done, and I found out I was pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
wow.
So, and by a man that I was like not really wanting, I didn't.
You're trying to find your way out of it.
But honestly, it would, because of the abuse. Like, so I got pregnant, but I still didn't quit school.
Kept going.
I literally pushed through it. Scheduled my baby to be delivered because they induce me. Scheduled her to be delivered on Wednesday. Thursday was Thanksgiving. Monday I was back in class.
Wow.
In tears, but I was back in class.
Yeah, you got to do it. That's the commitment. That is a big commitment.
That was definitely the level up. And then graduating, getting a job, and it was like, you know what?
Yeah. So that those small wins, those baby wins, it seems like they had a big impact, right? All right, cool. I'm gonna get my GED. I'm gonna go make this happen. Boom, you knock it out. Next step. All right, I'm gonna get into nursing school. Go out there, pass it. Boom, achievement. All right, now I have a baby. Obstacle. What do I gotta do now? You know what? I'm gonna have this baby, and I'm gonna get back at it and go at it again. That's huge, but I think the power of those achievements kind of lead, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they lead to that sense of fulfillment. Like, okay, I achieved something, on to the next one, and kind of leaves you chasing that next level of achievement. So you get into nursing school, and you're working.
I finished school, but I was always like the nurturer, the caretaker. So at the same time, I was taking care of my grandfather, who was very sick, and he died after I started working. And I remember just in that moment, with everything still very crazy, even though I had those small wins. I remember telling my ex-husband, I can't deal with you right now, but I will deal with this. And that was the moment that I knew I wasn't taking no more shit.
Man, that's
no more shit. Like, this is it.
That's the it's that coming. Something's coming.
Yeah, and what triggered that is he was on hospice, so I was physically taking care of him as he was dying. The only person that I had as a kid that was there for me, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna deal with you. And he died like a couple of days later, and after that I was like, that's it. And I got him out the house, and it got crazy, and but then that was like the second part of my life started happening, because that was where I was like, you know what, this is about me now.
Right. Got rid of the toxic relationship.
Oh yeah. Like, I could have never became in either one of my marriages, and I'll say this, like, I don't hate either one of them. Like, at this point I've matured, but I've come to the realization that I could never become the woman that I'm supposed to be if I would have stayed in either one of those marriages. Yeah, I would have just been doomed, miserable till I died.
Yeah, well, because that toxicity in the relationship, it's weight that holds you down. It doesn't allow you to go until you can cut it off, right? And that releases you. But being a mother and motherhood, carries a whole nother level of weight, right? And how was that impacting you along the way?
I wasn't just a mother. I was a mother. I was an auntie too.
Yeah.
My full story. My mom being a drug addict. My little sister being a drug addict like my mom. So many, many years where I was raising my kids and raising her kids. And so it was times where it was like 11 kids in my house. And I'm still working in real estate, trying to build a business. It was hell, especially because I was the breadwinner, and I was married to a man who wasn't the man of the house. And so it threw me off. I'm not naturally masculine in my home. Like, I want to be the woman. Right. But when that energy is off, then you're thrown off, and it's like, okay, I got to make the decisions because you're not making the decisions.
Right. You got to do what you got to do. There's some people say you got to go through hell to get to a better place, right?
Yeah.
So, it's temporary. And enduring it, it's one of those things that, you want to be over as soon as possible, but, you got to get through it, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the time, when I say it was hell, like, I'm really not looking back and saying that. I guess that was how I felt in it. But looking back, like, all the craziness, all of the pain, I'm so thankful for, because it definitely made me very strong.
Right on. And getting through college and getting dealing with the relationship, and then raising the children and being the best aunt. I'm sure they all loved you, and thankful for you being there for them. I have a large family myself, that, so I can understand the chaos that comes with it, and all the yelling and screaming, and siblings going back and forth, and people not listening to you.
Oh yeah, and the house being a mess.
Right. You're like, why can't it just be clean?
Yeah.
But it's I look at it, when I come home sometimes it's a mess. I'm like, you know what? I'm actually thankful I get to clean up this house. Yeah. Feels kind of good sometimes.
And so how is your attitude when you come in and the house is a mess?
My younger self used to, get frustrated, and I used to yell like, "Hey, clean up!" and "Why is this a mess?" and just going back and forth. And I remember one day I just realized, when growing up, my parents used to yell a lot, and I used to hate it when they yelled. I was like, "Why do you scream so much?" And then I was talking to Tracy, my wife, and I was like, "I feel like I'm always yelling at the kids." She's like, "Yeah, you are." I was like, "Dang, I probably need to stop that." And she's like, "Yeah, like, they're gonna make a mess. It's okay." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "You can clean it up too." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." So I started just like, all right, let me deal with it, let them do their thing, and just accepted that the cleanup is just part of the process. And two, it's not just my wife's job to do it, it's my job as well. So that was kind of biting that bullet and saying, all right, let's roll with it.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going. So moving forward, getting into real estate, how did that happen? What was the transition from nursing, and you're like, man, I need something else, like, this isn't it? Or what was that realization?
Well, I actually had always had this fascination with houses, and I know you grew up in apartments, like government housing.
Yeah, well, we jumped around from house to house, and at one point, I had to stay with some family and that lived in the Alazan project. So, when you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. When I was younger, we always lived in apartments, that were full of like roaches and just, that life. And I would walk to school and I would walk past the houses, and I just would be like looking at them thinking how, pretty they were, how amazing it was. So I always had like some kind of curiosity with houses, and I wanted to get into real estate when I was younger. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just knew like there was something that I wanted to do. And but I had so many kids that I was kind of discouraged by a lady that I had talked to. So
what did she tell you?
She told me I had too many children and that I would be all over the place, because I didn't talk to her about investing, because I didn't know anything about that. It was just me asking her, how do I get into real estate? And she's a realtor. And so she's like, well, you have too many kids. You're not going to be able to go show houses and do this and that.
Just discouraging.
Yeah, she was our landlord at the time. So
you're the wrong person to talk to.
I believed her, so.
That's the sad thing, is like, if somebody doesn't give you good, advice or isn't uplifting, like, you might believe them.
I did. Yeah. I believed her. And, I didn't go right into nursing school after that. So there was time. And then when I made the decision, when the level up came, it was like, okay, well, you're a provider. That's what you do. So just go, well, not provider, but nurturer. You're a caretaker. So just go to nursing school. Right. Because you already take care of everybody. Yeah. Which was a mistake. It was a mistake.
How did you know that was a mistake?
First of all, I did love like taking care of the older patients, but after a couple of years, like, I was drained because I was still taking care of everybody else. So it's like you go taking care of everybody at work, same thing at home. And I realized at that point I didn't like it, but it was okay. And I do believe that when you have these dreams inside of you, that the universe, God, is going to make it happen. Like when you don't give up on it, even if you think it's not like in the forefront of your mind, it's still gonna come out. And I had this also, so at the same time I had this vision. I had this vision of having a 2-story house with 5 bedrooms, an in-ground pool, and this ceramic tile. Like this is what I wanted. Like, you know, and I didn't live in that house, but I always like kind of envisioned it. And when I divorced my first husband, I was driving in my neighborhood, and what I thought that I had took a wrong turn on a street that I never drove on. And I took that turn, and I see this 2-story house, and it has this sign, a couple signs outside, and it says, you know, description of the house, and then also it had real estate classes. Learn how to learn pre-foreclosures, you know, all of that. And this was, you know, 2003, four, I think. So I got out, I went in the backyard, looked in, there was a pool in the backyard.
You're like, uh-oh.
I looked in the door, there was tile. It was a 5-bedroom house, 3 bathrooms.
It's your house.
And I was like, oh shit, literally, that was one of the first houses that I bought, and I'm probably the only person that actually ever bought the house that was a lease option, like in history. But it was like, and he was like, you know, I need $7,000 down, and you know, you make these payments, and he probably thought he was, you know, I was just gonna stay there a little bit. But I ended up really buying the house after a while, and I scraped up $600, drove to Austin for 2 days, and took my first class in pre-foreclosures. And so after that, it took a long time, because I would put the kids in the back of my Suburban, and we would drive, we go knock on doors, we drive for dollars. My kids knew how to drive for dollars when they were like little.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's where you made that commitment. First you bought the house, and then
I leased it first.
You leased it first, so you're like, hey, look, this is my house, this is my dream house, this is the one I've been envisioning about, and the universe brought you to it, right? God brought you to it and lined it up. 2 for 1, and on top of that, here's a door to the next chapter of your life, huh?
That was definitely the beginning, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
It never is, right?
No, I think I drove around almost 2 years before I got somebody to say yes.
You know, it's crazy, because, you know, before you got here, I was talking to one of my teammates about, you know, how we look at people, and a lot of times people will look at someone else and size them up and see like, well, you know, that person got there, and you know, they kind of make excuses for why they're not there, right? They're like, oh, I could do that. And you never really understand what somebody actually had to go through to get to where they're at, right? And that price you have to pay, and all the lessons and all the struggle, you know. So for you going through this and paying that price and learning pre-foreclosures and you know, kind of doing this all, it's for free, right? You're not nobody's paying you to do this. You have to get out there and hustle for it, right? And that right there is it can be discouraging, and can knock people out of the game.
Oh yeah.
But when you stick through it, then
you just have to make up your mind, because and back then it was no Facebook, there was no Instagram. Yeah. You know, I think MySpace. I don't know what MySpace was there.
I think it might have been MySpace. Yeah.
You know, and it was no. You know, there was. You know, organizations here, but for the most part, you're on your own. I was on my own.
Yeah, I think the MLS was like in a book.
It might have been.
There wasn't even an online MLS back then. Who knows? But I remember, you know, people talking about where they had to actually like have a book, open up the book with the listings, and you know, it was really inefficient. But you know, moving through and going through foreclosure school and going through that and learning real estate, you know, how, like, where did you really find that passion? Like, you know, did you say, hey, I'm gonna wholesale, or what was the goal there? What were you looking to do?
Well, I was very teachable then, and I did basically what I was told. When, you know, the person who was my mentor that I took the class from, his method was like, you wholesale because you want to build up your cash, then you rehab, and then you know, would hold property or move to the next step. So that's basically what I did. I did a couple wholesale deals, and the third one was a really big deal. And then from there, that connection put me into another space of buying about 18 houses at once right before.
Really?
Right before 2008. Literally, I think I signed the paperwork on those houses, buying them in December of 2006. And it was like I had to rehab them all. And
Wow.
they were all, going to be for sale.
Yeah.
So that was a long project. And after that, I just continued. I didn't have a lot of rentals, but I was just continuing to flip. I was my own contractor. So I did my own construction.
How was that, being your own contractor, managing the projects? I mean, I could only imagine, what you had to go through there.
Yeah, that has been a challenge, and that's actually where, it depends on the person, because
Right.
a lot of men don't want to take direction or orders from a woman. But, if the woman is your boss or paying you, then you have to put your ego aside. So it's definitely been a struggle. It's,
What were some of the lessons you had to learn from that?
typically you're not going to have one contractor for a long time, because they'll give you like a super low price to get in the door, and then you're expecting a decent price, and then it goes up and their quality of work goes down. So for me, I think the biggest thing I've learned with dealing with contractors is I don't care how good our relationship is, I've got to check behind you. I've got to check with different steps, because the bottom line is, and that's how later on I got into like trouble, is having to pay for shit over and over, having to fix problems because I did trust somebody.
Right.
Because I don't care how great they are. I mean, I've had guys steal from me. I've had the whole thing. And being a woman, it's like I'm really calm, but then there's that point where I'll be triggered and I'm just like going off.
Yeah.
And I don't like that space, but it doesn't do any good.
Right.
But it is frustrating.
Yeah, I think when you're calm and you're nice, and people will try to push you as far as they can, right? See where your boundaries are, and then once they hit that limit, and then it's like, I ain't gonna take it, I ain't gonna deal with it, we're gonna move on, and you know what, I'll see you. I'll see you later.
I think the biggest thing is that I had to learn is just not give as many chances. That was probably my biggest weakness.
Right.
And just giving people chances. Okay, I understand. This and that. But the truth is, you need to cut them off fast in the beginning, because they're not gonna take you down a good path if they're
right
like there's been issues. It's like, okay, get out. I have a good friend, and she'll be like, first day, get them out of here.
Yeah.
And so I think that is the biggest thing I had to learn, is cut people off like immediately.
Right.
Yeah. So.
That's a lesson I actually learned recently. It's like, man, you know what? Because I believe in people. And I'm like, man, people can be better. People can change. I think about myself and how I've changed. And but when you don't know someone's true character or their habits and stuff like that, some of those things prevent them from changing because they don't have that desire. So, it comes at an expense, right? All right, are you gonna keep waiting and keep giving them chances, and before you know it, you just keep getting burned and it causes more pain? Or you're just like, you know what? I've been down this road. I know how it goes. I don't even want to find out.
Yeah.
Do it right the first time.
I think, this is what I always say, is that it's about character.
Right.
So I can't guarantee if we do something that it's going to come out exactly how we discussed it. But what's important for me is the character and the integrity of the person. For one, I would like to work with people that have the same work ethic.
Right on.
Because if we have the same work ethic, we're going to be at the same place. As far as the character, like I said, if it doesn't come out the way it's supposed to and it goes totally to shit, I'm actually okay with that, as long as I know your intention wasn't bad and you're going to figure out a way to make it right. Like if you're doing some tile and there's just been all these other factors and it's not good, well, how are you going to fix it? Am I going to buy it? You made the mistake. Am I going to have to go buy that material? are you gonna suck it up? Because that's what I'm gonna do. As you know, if I'm doing a job for somebody, I'm gonna suck it up because of my integrity and my character. So when I say cut people off, I'm not referring to like an innocent accident. And then you can talk to people and you can tell like their character and how they are going to proceed and move forward with fixing it.
That right there is huge, and I remember when I got into real estate a long time ago, I talked to an investor and he sat down and he's a big buyer here in town, and he was telling me, Carlos, I only work with people of good character. And I was like, oh man, that's all right, cool. But it really just, those words made me reflect on myself. What is my character like? Am I really good character? And if I'm not, I better work on it to make sure it gets better, right? So that right there is something that I took and I've been living by that, because, the character that you accept is a reflection of your own character, right? So you want good people with good character because you hold yourself to that standard. And because your character is strong and your integrity is strong because you know what you'll do, that's what you deserve. You deserve to be around people like that.
Right.
And that's what helps you grow and keep advancing yourself.
If you ever want to know someone's character, I feel like you can always take them around Tracy. Like seriously, I think if you take your somebody around your wife, like, their intuition on character.
Oh yeah.
Will kick in. So I feel like just being around somebody, even before you get started, if it just feels off, then it's probably going to be off.
Yeah. It's not a coincidence, right?
Right.
So, as you got through, building up, your business and investing and all this experience, where has it led you to today? Where are you at right now? What projects are you working on?
Well, there's a lot in between. Because, after what you just said, building everything up, what happened? It went to shit.
Yeah, the 18 houses that you...
No, all of those were good.
Okay.
But, I several years went by and, raising all kids, family issues. I basically end up filing bankruptcy because I took my money, paid my business stuff. All my business relationships were good. But personally, I'm in this another bad marriage, raising everybody's kids, raising my own kids. So the story is not, been from here to there. Like it was here, and then I had to pull myself back up. Literally, I had to file bankruptcy to keep my house. Thank God I had like a knowledge of real estate. And I'm like putting restraining orders on my bank, and they're like, what the hell? I'm like, no, we gonna fix this. Just chill out. I fixed it. It didn't ever go into foreclose. It didn't actually foreclose, but like I had to like snap out, and that was like a decision where I'm like, I can't keep carrying everybody's weight. I had to, fix me, and so I had to build myself back up, and that kind of led to me doing more jobs, and then by accident several years later I started doing construction for other people. I got my contractor license, and there's like 2 levels, and I got the builder one because I knew that I wanted to build one day. And I had no idea what I was doing or where to start, but I knew that it was going to come. So
when you and just going back, going through that bankruptcy experience and, being able to keep it together and say, you know what, this is part of the process, right? This is something that, I didn't expect, but how did you keep the faith that it was going to get better, I
don't know that I always kept it together. I had became, what started the bankruptcy and what started the downfall is that I had became physically ill. Like I had stomach issues, I had migraines, I would go to the hospital, get like a shot for my head. I couldn't do anything with my children. My downfall then had nothing to do with real estate. That's the crazy thing, is that it had to do with me trying to save my sister, trying to take care of her kids, trying to keep my marriage together.
It came at the expense of your health?
It came at the expense of my health, and I didn't even want to leave my house. So for like a good year, I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm done. I literally was like in a dark space. I was laying on my bed one day because the lights were about to be cut off. I remembered and thought about the past, how I didn't think, things that I had overcame and how, you know, the moments where I was in those moments where I was like, you know, I can't take it. But then the next day came and I made it. And then at that point, you know, laying on my bed, I still remember, I was like, it's gonna work out. And I just kind of let go. And I let go, and I thought, what's the worst case that's gonna happen if I lose this house? I'm gonna get rid of all the stress, and I'm gonna take my kids and we're gonna start over. And that moment literally like took all the stress away from me. And then things started happening. I mean, we didn't lose our house. I built myself back up, but you can't build yourself back up when you're in that space, you know, holding on to that fear. Like that is the worst.
Yeah, you had to just come to terms with it. What's the worst that can happen?
I'm gonna start over.
What am I gonna do?
Yeah, I've done, you know, how many
been there before.
Been done. Let's go. Here we go. Let's do this again. You know,
dust yourself off. Let's get back on my feet.
But you got to learn something. So what I learned by that downfall was, I can't save everybody. I'm not God. I'm not Jesus. I can't save you. Don't go somewhere else. You know?
I got my own responsibilities. I got my own health.
Right.
If you can't, you know, it's Wiz Khalifa says these lyrics, you know, and I always thought they were pretty profound. But he's like, man, if I can't take care of myself, how am I gonna take care of everybody else? You know, and I think that's key, you know, because, you know, a lot of times it's easy to accept other responsibilities from people that you're trying to help because you care about them and you love them and you love the kids and you want to do what you can. But, you know, if you can't carry the weight, if you can't keep moving, then nobody's gonna be helped.
Yeah.
You know, and that is something to really be aware of, and you know, and you have to feed yourself. You know, you have to feed that mind, that body, the soul. It all needs attention. It all needs food, right? So, you know, it's good that you realize that and went back at it, because you know, the other option is just not an option, right?
Yes, it's just quitting and folding, and you know, that definitely wasn't even an option.
Right on.
Yeah.
So you bounced back, got back on your feet. You went back to work. You told everybody, hey, listen, I got work I got to do on my own. All right, y'all do what y'all have to do, but I know what my responsibilities are. And then just get back at real estate, get back to buying, get back to flipping.
I got back. I got back to being creative. Like I had, you know, at that point my credit was shot. I didn't have no money. I had never used hard money loans, so all the other deals I did was all with private money, and so I had to figure out a way, you know, to make it work. And I remember, you know, finding a house, having them owner finance it for like 6 months while I put a little bit of money into it, put it, you know, had them deed me the property.
Right.
And so and it was end up being a flip because the numbers worked, but I had to be creative. Like, so I did that. And by that time there was already social media, so I started posting that stuff, and just to kind of get the word out, because nobody really knew what I've been going through. I was still like friends with everybody, but it was my personal struggle.
Right on.
And then it was just like, you know, one thing led to another, and construction people started asking me to help them with projects that were like nightmare projects. And then I realized, oh shit, I can make money with this, you know. And so I started, you know, making that money and then doing more of my own projects and just moving forward. Yeah,
so, you know, even though you went through that experience and you encountered the bankruptcy, you know, at that point, you know, you still weren't the same person you were when you first started the journey, right? You're more developed. You have way more experience. You've gone through all these different lessons. So, you know, even starting from scratch again, you're starting from a better position of experience, and that allowed you to actually use that knowledge, right? Use that mindset, change the mindset, right?
Yes, for sure. I think that my biggest lessons that propelled me to the next level were all personal. Literally lessons that I had to learn that weren't just for real estate, you know. And that's why when we talked, I'm like, I don't want to go on any show and tell somebody how to, do A, B, C, D. This is gonna make you flip a house. This is gonna do this.
Yeah, that's not it.
That's not me. Like, if anything, if I'm gonna share something or teach somebody, it's gonna be my biggest strength, which is surviving. Surviving and thriving, and not quitting.
Learning.
And so I did, go through all of those things, but they were lessons that, like, I can use in every area of my life. Like, I had to get those core weaknesses and lessons. Like, those were life lessons.
Right.
For every part of my life, not just business.
And it builds character. It builds character and discipline, right? And I think a lot of times we might confuse those things with, it might seem a little negative, right? Discipline, like, you think you might relate that to getting in trouble, but no, having the discipline to do what's right? Having the discipline to do what's hard and go through it, because, you're right, doing the math and buying a house and flipping it or whatever, running the numbers, that's an easy part. But the things that you actually have to go through and deal with to get there, and when things don't go your way, and understand, like, man, all right, do I just throw up my hands and call it quits and that's it, or do I get back at it, take the lessons that I learned, and from the personal things, right? Because I believe we have to look inward, right? The answers to our success are inside of us. So you got to look inside and take those experiences and use them to advance. As far as, we got through that. We got through the bankruptcy. We got through bouncing back, getting on your feet, and now I know you wrote a book. You wrote a book at one time, and I don't know if you're working on another one, a second version. We talked about that. How's that going?
The first one was quite a long time ago, because it was a book about just my story, and I think it was me healing too, and writing, like, from my childhood, all of these crazy experiences. I did write the book, but I was in another bad marriage, and I wasn't present with, it was a totally opposite. It wasn't abusive. So I was dealing with other things, that I had not dealt with. So it's, again, another life lesson, and so I didn't focus on, like, promoting it, and I did some interviews, I had the book in some different places. My journey changed, my beliefs changed, my marriage changed. So, I had to redo, like, everything in the book.
Right on.
Yeah. And so I'm still, like, it's done. The revision of it is done. I just have not, like, sent it. But it's time, it's time.
Right on.
Yeah.
I look forward to reading the revision whenever it comes out. So you keep me posted on that one. So as far as, where you're at now, all the life lessons that you've gone through, and today's, version of you, where are you at now?
So
what's this level up look like, and what does the next one look like?
It's softer. It is way softer. Yeah, like, I feel like I'm finally able to get into my femininity, my calmness. Like, I've always had to take care of myself, since I was a kid, on my own since 14, having to just be, that boss lady. And now I feel like I'm in a space where I'm ready to be open to learning parts about myself that are not pretty, and things that like defense mechanisms, behaviors that I've had, like, really being true with myself. Like, okay, well, this is how I was in the past, these experiences. Like, why is it that I don't want to ask nobody for help? Like, do I subconsciously believe I don't deserve help? Or, what are those little things? Like, and really digging in myself. That's what I want to do. Like, right now, my level up is really fixing myself. Being able to be softer and kinder and have compassion, because the way that I grew up, was very hard. I didn't have anybody. I had to survive. I literally, was living on the streets, homeless.
Fighting,
right?
Yeah.
And so what that did for me is cause me to be hard. Like even with my own children, they would go through something, and I would be like, suck it up. Let's go. It's life. And I realize now that, that's not the way to go. Like that did not help my children at different times deal with depression, because I didn't, honestly, even though I was a nurse and I dealt with, people that had mental illnesses, it still was engraved in me. Like, you can get through anything. Yes, you can, but not everybody's the same.
Right.
And things affect people differently. And I lacked a lot of compassion and empathy for people. And so I have had some personal situations that slapped me in the face and made me realize, like, you need to change your mindset with some things. So my level up now is really about not only fixing me and becoming a better woman, but also just helping, my children by being a better example.
It reminds me of Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, and the top is self-actualization, and that's what you're reaching for, is realizing yourself and being aware of what it is about you, what made you, and how can you continue to evolve and grow from there. And that's something that I've been experiencing as well. I think about my children, and as my oldest is 19, and I'm like, all right, well, man, we're responsible for these kids and who they become, and we were talking about that earlier, right? So I'm like, man, well, my life and my vision, our lives, our visions, right, and our experiences, they're even more impactful when we're able to share those lessons with our children, so they can become great in their own way, in their own light, to help them overcome these challenges as well. So I think that's awesome that's what you're working on. So,
and it's not even just like sharing, it's seeing. Like your example of, you were angry when you'd come in and the house was a mess, and then you would be fussing, and then now for them to see you had you recognize that you made a change, and you're no longer screaming and being angry when you come in, because they would have just remembered you coming home every day from work mad.
Yeah, yelling at them.
As they got older. So it's really, to me, like, you show them.
Right.
So.
Yeah, right on. Coming down to the end, what would be the best advice you can give somebody, to your the younger version of yourself, the younger Abigail today, looking back? What best piece of advice could you give that person?
I would tell her that she is enough, that she is not what she was treated like, and that the dysfunction of the people that raised her wasn't about her, and the way that other people treat you is not about you. And so I think if I would have loved myself or been conscious of all of that the way you treat me has really nothing to do with me. It's about you. If I would have known that when I was a young girl, I would have loved myself different. And I would have made different choices. And my life is played out the way it played out because I created it, and because even the bad marriages, because this is where I was mentally, and these are the decisions I was making, based on my belief going into every situation. So I would just tell myself, like, you're powerful, and it was definitely God. I know my people don't really understand my beliefs, but I do believe in God, and I do believe that we're all connected, we're all one, and we're a part of that energy that that created everything. So if we're a part of that, like, how can we not be every single thing that we choose to be? Because God is so powerful, and if we're a part of that, it doesn't matter if our thoughts are bad or good, they're going to be just that. Because we have that ability to tap into it and create. So I would just tell myself, like, you're enough, and you're everything, and love yourself.
Right on. I love that. And you're right, because God is the creator, right? And made us like God to create. And that's what we're doing, right? Creating our best life, learning from everything that we've gone through to make it better. So That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today. And on the next one, Abigail will be interviewing me because she asked to.